Shadow of the Tomb Raider is a game that was almost buried by a lot of high-profile games that were released around it. Games like the high-flying PS4 exclusive Spider-Man, the highly rated Xbox exclusive Forza Horizon 4, and of course, one of the best games this entire generation, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And while it's understandable to see why some people might have skipped on a game like Shadow of the Tomb Raider, considering all these high-profile games that were extremely high-rated, and I have to admit, I was one of the people that skipped out on the game after seeing a lot of the reviews had to say about the game, especially when you look at the Metacritic scores that plague the game from PS4 to Xbox all the way to the PC reviews. Yet this game still gnawed at me to be played because I was such a huge fan of the first two in the series. The first two games came out of nowhere for me, especially the first one, which blew my mind that I beat it twice, one on PC and the other on the Xbox. And I was highly anticipating the release of Rise of the Tomb Raider that I went out and bought it day one, even though the huge games like Fallout 4 came out before it. Even with all this love for the franchise, for some reason I had reservations about Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and that hesitance came from the announcement that a different team was making the third entry in this beloved franchise. It took the hype straight out of this game for me, and I wasn't ready to buy it day one. So let's dive into this game and find out if it's worth people playing. First up is the graphics, which has to be one of the most impressive parts about this game. Wherever you turn, this game has something for you to marvel at, especially the details in the dense forest that persist throughout the entire game. It makes you feel like you're actually in these exotic areas. And I have to admit, I was playing this one on the Xbox One X, which truly brought out the graphical prowess this game possesses. I didn't notice any pop-in textures throughout my entire gameplay. Maybe I was a little lucky, but to be honest, I just think the optimization for this game was extremely well done. The jungle areas feel extremely natural, and the mud feels great. Even when you're in combat, the graphics don't hitch at all. The frame rate stays consistent, and I played both on the performance mode and the graphical mode. And I have to say, the performance mode was such a great way to experience this game. I highly recommend people to do that. The level of detail was noticed, and I appreciated the effort put forth by the developers, because you can tell they put time and pride into this game. Now let's talk about the controls of the game. While the climbing and the overall controls are pretty sharp, they still have a little bit of getting used to. If you are familiar with the controls of Uncharted and the other Tomb Raider games, then you'll be able to pick up the controller and naturally play this game. But that doesn't mean it doesn't have its little problems here and there. Sometimes Laura will jump and miss a ledge, or won't register a jump onto a double jump wall, and you'll end up just jumping and wondering what the hell is going on. And sometimes it will happen when you're trying to climb a ledge, and instead of registering your jump, it will jump off a cliff and down to Laura's demise. While these weren't very frequent, they did happen sometimes, which was a little annoying, but not game breaking for me. As for the combat, I never had a problem. The controls were extremely well done for the combat. It was probably the best shooting I've seen in a Tomb Raider game or any other game similar to this. I always felt like a warrior just tearing people apart, especially when stealth was involved. I loved the execution animations, and the controls felt sleek as I was doing them. So that was a pretty cool addition to the game. While Rise and Tomb Raider, the first one, the definitive edition, had great controls, this one just seems to up the ante and make it a little better. Next up is the side content that the game has to offer. While this is a very linear game with a pretty decent story, there's still a lot of side content for people to enjoy if they want a little break from the main story. Now, I'll be honest, I was very entertained by the main story, so I mostly stuck to that portion of the game, but I did venture out a little bit and experience a couple side missions. They don't tie into the main story all that much, but they do help build the story a little more in depth. But the standout of the side content, and maybe the standout of the entire game, is the tombs and crypts that are in the game. They are very well designed and look absolutely stunning. It never gets old to explore the world and find these tombs all over the map, and you go into them and solve complex puzzles. The climbing in these tombs is fun and really gives you a vantage point to see the entire tomb, which brings a smile to my face because I realize how much time the developers put into this part of the game. There's also challenge tombs, which I haven't jumped into because they're tied behind the DLC, and some of them haven't even been released yet. Not to mention, these challenge tombs are co-op, which is pretty awesome, so I recommend you actually take the time to do the tombs, and I'm gonna wait for all the challenge tombs to come out before I jump back in and kind of knock these things out. But now comes the story of the game. One of the best things this game did was actually make me feel for the main character, Lara Croft. Be it when you're trying to outrun a tsunami destroying a city or a mudslide that's taking out a town, you feel the urgency from her, or the emotion when you are trying to help the characters in the game. For Laura to be the standout in this game is what makes this game such a great experience and heightens the overall story. And when you're in these intense parts of the story, it's not just mind-numbing or boring because the build up to those high energy points are so great. The pacing to me is very well done, and while you're climbing and enjoying the scenery around you, the game moves along quite nice. It's just when you think the game is going a little too slow or you feel it needs to progress a little more, the game will throw a huge set piece at you which will bring you right back into the story. And I have to say, the game has one of the best scenes I had in a video game in the last year. There's a moment when Laura loses her cool and goes absolutely beast on some bad guys. She reaches this breaking point where the music and the directing of the cinematic really pushes this game to the highest point I've ever seen in the Tomb Raider franchise. But to bring everything together, I have to say this is probably my favorite Tomb Raider game I've ever played. I know a lot of people might not agree with me, but that's okay because I found this game to be such a pleasant surprise. This is coming from someone who loved the first game, especially since it surprised me and instantly became one of my favorite adventure games back when it came out. For Shadow of the Tomb Raider to take its place because of the set pieces, the environments, the horror aspects, and not to mention the action, does attest to how hard this developer worked on this game. You could tell they were given the time and budget to create something that competes with any game that was brought out last year. With that all said, I have to give this game a 9.1 out of 10 because it was one of those games that keeps me engaged and kept me itching to get back into the world. While it has its flaws like every game, those never hurt my gameplay and didn't break my engagement, so I highly recommend people check out this game. But enough of what I think, let me hear what you guys think about this game. Did you skip on the game during the crazy holiday season? Is this a game you want to give a chance to play? Did you love the first two games? Does this being made by a different development team make you hesitant to try it? Go down below and let me know what you think and if you loved or hated the game. And like always, hit that like button and that subscribe button. It means a lot to me and helps the channel a lot. And please follow me on Twitter at Zalker87. I'm always around talking to everyone in the community and having a great time. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'm out of here, and remember, enjoy your gaming. Later.